All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Resonate Activation webinar today. So we are going to start at about 2:02. So just let a few more folks join. And I hope everybody's having a nice Tuesday. All right. Hi, everyone. For those of us who are still joining, welcome. We're super excited to speak with you all today, and we're going to get started in just one more minute. All right, welcome everyone. We are just about to get started. And here we go. Hi everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Getting the Most from Resonate Activation, Smarter Campaigns with Lookalike Modeling. My name is Nicole Barr, and I'm the VP of Customer Success here at Resonate. And so I oversee the customer success team that you all work with day to day. And we wanted to set up this session to highlight the latest new lookalike modeling activation capabilities that we've just released. And so our customers that have started to leverage these features are already seeing an increase in sales lift. And so we wanted to make sure you know exactly how to leverage each of these enhancements to maximize your ROI. And so to get us started with an overview of our activation capabilities, I am super happy to introduce Astrid Otley, our lead customer success trainer here at Resonate. So Astrid has a deep understanding of our capabilities, and she oversees our customer training program. So she's the perfect person to highlight our new lookalike modeling capabilities today. So Astrid, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks. So, hi everyone. I'm Astrid Otley, the lead customer success trainer here at Resonate. Thank you for joining the webinar today. Today, I'll be guiding you through how to effectively activate lookalike models for your audiences and your campaigns. By the end of this session, you'll have a clear understanding on how to leverage the platform to develop these audiences that can scale and drive better performance and return on ad spend. So let's dive right in. So for the agenda, today we're going to review Resonate activating the audiences, highlight how our new lookalike model capabilities, review a few activation best practices, and then dive into the platform to give you a live demo on how to create those audiences and use the lookalike modeling techniques. We'll also have time for Q&A at the end in case you guys have any questions. So first, just in case of those that may not be as familiar with activation, I wanted to highlight what is activation. Activation is a term that we use that means targeting your audiences with ads online, either programmatically via DSP, via social media platforms such as Meta, TikTok, or via CTV, which is also a DSP. Within Ignite, activation is more of a streamlined process from planning to activation, or excuse me, planning to action. Whereas the Resonate platform delivers these audiences to those DSPs and social networks. When you think about these DSPs and social networks, it really helps you to enable generating high performance campaigns across multiple channels, including all these different networks that I just mentioned. Key takeaways here that I always wanted to mention though is that activation moves seamlessly from planning to execution. Once I dive into the platform and demonstrate how you can build the audiences, you'll see how easy it is for the entire process. Also, our data-driven approach provides continuously updated insights, not just insights, but we refresh the audiences frequently as well. And then ultimately, the goal is to enhance efficiency while you're maximizing your audience reach. So when you think of key methods to activate audiences, we have a number of key methods. I mentioned some of the social media platforms, but just starting off with the Trade Desk and the LiveRamp. These are some of our direct connections. And within the Trade Desk, all you have to do in the platform is enter your Trade Desk credentials in the platform. And then with Resonate, with LiveRamp, you can use Resonate's LiveRamp seat at no additional cost to you to connect to multiple endpoints. Some of our currently used or probably most popular endpoints that we use in LiveRamp can be DV360, Yahoo, and a few others. And like I mentioned, the audiences are automatically refreshed on a weekly basis. For social media, we also have direct connections. We have a direct connection to Meta, a direct connection to TikTok, and same with the Trade Desk or the LiveRamp. These audiences are also automatically refreshed on a weekly basis. Lastly, another method we have are what we call MAID files. MAID meaning mobile ad IDs. So these are ad IDs you can download from the Resonate platform and then upload them into your respective destinations. If you decide to use this particular method, we recommend exporting the MAIDs from the Resonate platform and uploading them to your respective destinations on a quarterly basis. So now when you think about driving performance, as you can see here, you're able to seamlessly build an audience when you're in the platform. It literally takes a few minutes because we have that great audience builder that we recently released in the platform to build your audience. And then with that, you can build an audience with the data that we currently have in the platform, custom data. So if you have CRM data, data from your first party, you can activate it to various platforms that you can see listed here. And then once you're ready to launch these campaigns in these respective destinations, you can then drive activation results for your business. So looking at tons of insights about these audiences, activating those audiences, and then using those insights to maybe develop a creative strategy or any type of other strategy that you want to use for your campaign. So we kind of like to let the results speak for themselves. It's something we always like to highlight in a few of our webinars. We had an insurance brand, I believe it was, that significantly enhanced their performance by leveraging Resonate intent data. I believe life stages was also included, and competitor data. They were able to increase membership conversions by 39%. They reduced acquisition costs by 31%, and they were able to see a reduce in their cost per click by 39%. So now when you think about these lookalike models that we do have, our latest enhancements, it's something that we're now offering that gives you more solutions than ever before when you're trying to drive leads for campaign results with Resonate. When you think about our lookalike solutions, it really helps you enable how you to maximize the power of first-party data. You can use our engaged data when you are building audiences, and engaged data is data from these consumers that are actively looking at different content, different topics online where you can build an audience from the platform. And I'll demonstrate that in the live demo today. For example, you could partner with us to upload consumers or customers from your CRM, and then overlay any type of Resonate elements you'll see in the platform, or you may hear me call them attributes, using those terms interchangeably, and overlay that with your customer file in the platform. Then you can customize that audience as well and use our lookalike targeting strategy. When it helps, when you look at these strategies, you can customize them for your respective business goals. You can pair these audiences with tailored creative to match the targeting, additional features that you can use for your lookalike audiences to help level up for your precision, And then both of those combined together really can help with your strategy. So you think about one of the best ways to activate some of the audiences using this new lookalike modeling feature is the types of data that you can use for lookalike modeling. This includes leveraging just a ton of different data, but when you do lookalike modeling, you can take into these different types of data into consideration, slicing them with like additional attributes or layering them on. First, starting with the website tag and resonate elements. So if you have placed a tag on, a client's website, on a brand website, you can capture visitors who engage on your site, make certain actions or CTAs that you may have throughout your site, and then you can look-alike model that by adding on resonate elements. For example, past purchasers on a clothing website, and then let's say they like to buy luxury apparel. What you can do is create an audience of people that are tagged or visiting that site, and then using that with Resonate Elements for lookalike modeling, you will be able to reach more consumers who behave like those luxury purchasers. Another way to use lookalike modeling is with engaged audiences and resonate data. And this is what I'll probably demo during the webinar today. So you essentially can identify consumers who are already engaging with key topics online and then select additional attributes to layer over with that audience. Key example here, there can be maybe you're working on an audience that's reading about healthy lifestyle snacks, and then they have young children. You can reach more consumers who behave like those who are interested in healthy kid snacks by using those engaged audiences and resonate attributes. Lastly, you can use the method with CRM data and resonate elements. So with this, essentially you are identifying consumers within your CRM file that you can onboard into the platform and then overlay resonate attributes with that CRM file to further segment different behaviors and preferences about your CRM file. Example here is of recent hotel customers. Let's say you have hotel customers, they like to travel and they're adventurous. Using lookalike modeling and this particular method, you would be able to reach more consumers who behave like adventurous vacationers. And again, you can activate that audience and help with your different strategies. So we do have a great visualized audience precision chart that I'll demonstrate in the platform as well. This precision chart, it really helps you with identifying how the model target audience aligns with your specific seed audience, helping you understand how you can adjust the size and then make sure that it's respective to your performance goals. Some of these updates make it easier to launch like high performing campaigns. They extend the value of your first party data. When you're looking at these audiences in the platform, it also helps you with targeting. You're able to target much smarter. Your returns, I've mentioned with the results that I said speak for themselves. Your returns are much stronger. And then of course your reach is a lot more scalable. So we have a few new models also when you think about the different methods I mentioned rather. Here are some of the best lookalike modeling delivery strategies. So when you are in the platform using the lookalike modeling capabilities, you'll see that you have a few different options. The first is to include the seed. This means you will essentially keep the seed audience in the activated group and then you can activate that lookalike model. This particular delivery strategy is best for retention and upsell campaigns. It definitely drives more revenue across both your current customers and then your new prospective customers. Another strategy is to exclude the seed audience. So essentially, when you're activating this lookalike model, you're excluding the seed audience entirely so you can find new lookalikes. This is more ideal when you have clients or when you're working on strategies that you want like net new customers, not necessarily previous converters. And then you essentially want to reach out to these net new customers and avoid wasting media dollars on people who are already converted. So if it's something you're working on, whereas conversions are typically like a one-time thing, this might be the strategy that you would gravitate toward. Lastly, we have optimize. So you can find people who closely resemble your seed audience regardless of the seed membership. This is best if you want to maximize precision, looking at the precision chart I just mentioned. And you're also able to target a more high propensity prospect. This also, what we've seen, helps drive lower cost per acquisition and a return or higher return on ad spend. So when you have to build these audiences, actually before you, or I should say before you activate these audiences, you need to configure the definition, or excuse me, the destinations. You can do that in the engagement center, but as a best point of reference, I always recommend reaching out to your customer support team or your customer success manager. We're definitely here to support you when you are activating these lookalike models, when you want help or need help setting them up as well. With these additional steps, essentially it just depends on the destination that requires a setup. So for example, if you are activating to, I mentioned DV360 via LiveRamp, there are certain things that we need to set up that pathway, I should say. If you're activating to those direct connections I mentioned, like Meta, the Trade Desk, or TikTok, each destination has their own respective requirements to set up that pathway. Typically, it's something as simple as, an account ID or something like that. But again, we have all these instructions written down that we can share with you if anyone is interested in setting up these destinations. And of course, our team is here to support you. And one thing I wanted to call out about configuring partner accounts is that if any of you are interested in activating audiences, especially with lookalike models, I always recommend setting up that destination maybe a week or so before you're ready to launch, just in case there are any issues with troubleshooting we need to do, just to make sure that the audience is within that destination and it's ready to go. So that's something I always want to call out for any of you that are activating audiences. Always try to activate them ahead of time so that way they're ready to go in those respective destinations as you're approaching your launch date. So when you're activating your Resonate audiences, you essentially just choose the different selections. You can think about where you want to create that selection, or excuse me, create that destination. And when you're in the platform, you're pretty much in the engagement tab here. So this is where you would choose your partner. You would select the start and end date, and essentially this is a time frame that the platform will update those audiences on a weekly basis, as I mentioned. So if you have a campaign running for maybe Q4 of this year, you will set that start date from October to the end of the year for that quarter. Again, all of this is pretty self-explanatory, but we're definitely here to support you set that up once you guys are ready to start activating audiences. Okay, so discussing some best practices. So one of the best practices we always like to mention is how many audiences should we have per campaign? Highly, highly recommend starting with at least 3 to 5 audiences for your campaigns. Primarily because we want to allow the audiences to optimize to see which ones are performing as your media runs, at least for about 4 weeks. I believe in some of the destinations, they may have certain things in place where you can the platform optimizes the audiences for you, but by allowing 3 to 5 audiences kind of rotate, run, we can see which ones are getting the most engagement, which ones are performing better, and then you can work with your customer success manager to make any type of changes. Also, if there is an audience that is running well, we can see how that audience is running well and maybe use another proxy of that audience, another lookalike model that would be helpful, etc. Another question that we typically get is how often should I refresh my audience? As a best practice, your audiences will automatically update on a weekly basis. So that time frame I mentioned when you enter the start and end date, that's how frequently on a weekly basis your audiences will update. So essentially, the platform is updating those IDs without that cadence. Additionally, we do encourage you to monitor performance, at least performance metrics on a quarterly basis. If you notice a decline in, audience fatigue, again, we may consider tweaking the audiences or building new ones to enhance your results. Now, also, I mentioned the made file. So if you are downloading mobile ad IDs for your audiences and uploading those into those destinations, that we do recommend refreshing on a quarterly basis. And then lastly, as the best practice, certain things to consider when building your audiences that we've seen or noticed that can impact your bidding strategies for your campaigns and your activation can be audience size. So that's something to keep in mind. Geography, campaign goals. You may need to work with your activation partner to optimize your bid strategy. But for example, if you are activating audiences and there's a specific geography that you want to include as a best practice, we always recommend adding the geo in that respective destination, primarily because Resonate has, our methodology, our identity graphs. However, in those respective destinations, they have their methodologies and identity graphs, so it'll be best to add geo in those destinations. So then lastly, we want to talk about margin tracking advice. This is helpful when you are managing your campaign in the DSPs and you are thinking about third-party fees, also in social platforms. So you do have fixed margin settings. This can be done in various DSPs or social platforms. Really, in short, you can reserve the costs associated with the audiences. So when you're reserving the cost, you reserve a cost of your total budget, and then you can use it for like your Resonate data fees, and then track total spend against media. So that way you can even withhold like a higher CPM and then pass that cost on to customers. A number of different things you can do with the margin tracking. This one I definitely recommend reaching out to the team for advice. It depends on, your relationships with your respective clients or brands. If you are a brand, how you are managing the campaigns. And then also it depends on the DSP. But essentially what you can do is we typically recommend inputting Resonate costs as a third party fee. And then this can help you pass on the cost from your Resonate partnership to your individual clients. Now, for those that are activating or are interested in activating, we also have self-reporting. And essentially, for accounts that activate using Resonate audiences, we require that you report the activation impressions at the close of each month. This really enables us to ensure you're within that impression threshold of your client contract. If your client contract is different, definitely work with your customer success manager or your salesperson to identify how you can report the activation, because I know it can differ depending on clients, but this is just something to keep in mind if you are self-reporting. Resonate Finance will reach out after the close of each month to confirm the volume of impressions you activated for that month. And then you can enter your information in the link provided in your specific Salesforce report. Typically, these emails are sent out, I mentioned the first week of each month, around like the 5th or so of each month. So that's when you can look for those emails. We do send reminder emails as well, but within those emails is where you will see a link that you can click on and enter your information here. And it should be similar to this interface here. Okay, so let's see it live. Probably what everyone is really here for, right? Okay, so I'm in the demo account, and I'm just going to create an audience and then overlay some Resonate elements like I mentioned, and then see if we could create a lookalike model and then look at that precision chart. So when you are creating an audience in the platform, it literally takes seconds to create an audience. You can customize the audience, but again, we've designed the platform to be super user friendly. And then one thing also to call out, if there's anything that would be helpful for you in the platform, feel free to let your Resonate team know about that as well. We're definitely taking all the feedback to make sure that it's easy to use. But I say that to say, when you're creating an audience in the platform, you do that here in the segmentation tab. So I can click here to the segmentation tab, and then you can build your audiences a number of ways. You can enter a search term here to build your audience. You can use the audience builder, which I highly recommend building your audiences. But for the sake of the webinar today, I want to look at creating a lookalike model. So I can create an audience with our engaged audience that I mentioned. For the sake of this, let's say I want to look at engaged audiences. And I don't know, football is all the talk around in my house. So let's go with football, right? So let's say people are observing content related to football. So I can add this to my audience or start to create my audience by clicking on this blue arrow here. So right now, I have an audience of people that are observing content about football. Now, to create that lookalike model I mentioned, you can always add on Resonate elements to customize this audience a bit further. So let's say Eagles, because I am a Hertz fan. So it says, which NFL team are you a fan of? Let's just say Philadelphia Eagles. So if I create an audience right now, I just have people that are observing content about football, right? But let's say I wanted to add in that they are also an Eagles fan. So now I have an audience of people that are fans of the Eagles and they are observing content online about football. So I would save this audience. You can give it any name, and you can see how quickly you're able to create an audience. Save it, and then you can activate that audience. So you can activate it a couple of ways, but I mentioned you can go to the engagement tab, and essentially the engagement tab is asking which audience do you want to activate. So if I click activate an audience, it will bring me to the list of audiences we have in the platform. So these are just a few. Again, I'm in the demo account, but let's say we want to activate the audience that I just created. I can click activate here and then walk you through those steps that I mentioned earlier. Right here also, you can see it lists out those steps. But again, if there are ever any questions, feel free to loop us in. We're happy to join you to walk you through how to activate an audience, answer any questions you have about configuring these platforms, etc. But for the sake of the webinar today, let's say I select the trade desk, and then you would create your destination. And essentially, I believe it just asks for your advertiser ID and your secret key. So you can get this information from your trade desk account manager. You can name the destination anything you like, and you will select create destination. After that, you enter the campaign dates. I think I mentioned, just as an example, maybe I wanted to activate this audience for Q4 of this year. But I mean, I can enter any dates, so I can just change the dates here and then select the delivery method.
Oh, Astrid, can I chime in real quick on that campaign date selection choice too? A real trick that Astrid mentioned earlier is that we recommend keeping the start date as the day that you're working in Ignite, because that's going to kick off generating the audiences and pushing it through to the trade desk as quickly as possible. And that will enable us to catch, if the secret key has a typo in it, we'll get an error and reach out to you guys the next day or the next 2 days tops. And you'll see it in Ignite that something's not working. So it just keeping the start date as the day you're looking to begin the activation will enable that audience to flow out as quickly as possible, and also like catch possible hiccups and allow the audience to build for scale in the DSP too. So sorry, that's my particularly passionate activation tip or trick. But so pardon me, Astrid, thanks.
No, good call out. But also, in addition to that, I just thought of with the end date. So if you're setting an end date, let's say your campaign is ending at the end of this year, we do recommend extending that end date like a few weeks past that end date. Also because you could be, maybe waiting for budget or waiting for anything to change. You could still extend that end date and get refreshed IDs. So that way, let's say you get additional budget and you want to continue running the campaign, we want to make sure that there isn't a pause there. You can still continue to extend the date, but just as another best practice is when you're setting these campaign dates, setting the start date for when you want to first start activating the audience, like Nicole mentioned, and then for the end date, extending it at least a couple of weeks after the end of the campaign, in case you do decide to extend the campaign. Here for delivery method, you would select lookalike modeling. And then if I scroll down, you can see those different strategies I mentioned. Optimize, including the seed audience or excluding the seed audience. And then at the bottom, we have that precision analysis I reviewed as well. Over here on the right-hand side, you can see it says that the lookalike model precision analysis allows you to refine the exact size of your target audience. And then once you make any adjustments, it lets you know how your precision is aligned with that adjustment. So then you will select, it will say like activate now here or something like that. But something to keep in mind is that it does take time for that precision analysis to develop. But just to give you an idea on how that looks, it will look something like this here. So once you click activate now and as it starts to build, you'll receive an email when it's ready, and then it'll populate this chart. Well, it'll give you a link to be directed to this chart here. And so if you want to make any, adjustments, you can see how your precision aligns with that adjustment in the actual chart.
Yeah, and if I can just chime in here too, I think what's really handy then is, so let's say you've initially tested out a 10% lookalike model. And when you get the audience in the DSP, you decide that maybe you wish you could have a little bit more scale. And you wonder if, the precision is going to be impacted by shifting this out a tiny bit further. This precision chart enables you to tell that story about how, we are still within the, X precision of this audience, even when I scale it an additional 5% to the even larger US population. So this is, a really handy way to just get deeper insights into, how that lookalike model is changing the scale of your audience and how close and precise you are still to the original seed that you have either chosen to keep included, excluded, or optimized.
Good call out. And something to keep in mind is that this is just one of the audiences that you guys can activate. I mentioned as a best practice, we recommend activating 3 to 5. So you can make additional variations of the audience we created. You can include other audiences as well. I mentioned like first party data, tag data, if you have anything tagged. So tons of different audiences you can use to really narrow down to the ones that are creating the best engagement, performing the best, etc. And then of course we'll help you monitor, if you want you let us know those metrics that I mentioned, how they're performing. We can give you recommendations on additional audiences that you can create or use for your campaigns. Okay, so I believe that's all we had today. Thank you for joining today's session. We're reviewing the new lookalike modeling capabilities. We covered how to activate audiences using our latest lookalike modeling capabilities, how you can maximize your return on ad spend, etc. If you do have any questions or need any further support, again, always feel free to reach out to your Resonate team, your respective customer success manager, or you can also reach out to Resonate support at resonate.com. I believe we do have a few minutes slated for Q&A as well.
Yeah, and so we have some great Q&A questions coming in that I'll be happy to address. And the other item is too, we are going to share a recording of this webinar too. So just in case anybody needs a copy, we'll be sending that out by the end of this week too, once it's done processing. So, all right. So our first question here is, I understand that there can be Resonate segments available too in certain DSPs, like the Trade Desk, Google, StackAdapt, Xandr, and others. So, is there a centralized list or roster for those pre-built segments? So that is a fantastic request. We're going to follow up with this person afterwards, but we can absolutely provide more information about some of our pre-built segments that are out in DSPs today. The features we've shown today are the ability to make those customized audiences, where, you know, depending on your strategy with that client, you really want to sort of add a special sauce to that targeting, right? And do something that's differentiated than some of those pre-built segments. But we do have both available. And then a key piece and a follow-up question here, which does get to be a little bit account specific. So, you know, is asking about like self-reporting versus other DSP reporting differences. And so if you, like, depending on the account where you work with us, you should reach out and talk to us if you're interested in DSP self-reporting or, you know, continuing like self-reporting like Astron's shown here today. So that's one where, again, if you have questions on the billing for these features, please just reach out and we'll talk to you guys specifically. All right, and then another question here is, are we able to upload our own first-party data segments? So I hope I'm gonna interpret this question correctly. And if I don't, by all means, like, we will be in touch after this call to follow up too. But so let's say, for instance, that you are a brand and you have segments of different customers who do different frequencies of purchases with you. So we've got maybe our lapsed customers, our people who bought from us in the last 6 months, and then we've got like our repeat customers. So maybe they're doing like multiple purchases a month and they're just fantastic, right? So if you have those segments in your CRM, and then you have some type of ID associated to them. So that could be a hashed email, a mobile ad ID, IP addresses, or if you have PII information about them, then you can reach out to us. And again, depending on your partnership with Resonate, you might have access to our CRM onboarding features, or we could talk about adding it in for you guys. And then you would be able to upload those with us. And so we have a partnership with LiveRamp to upload the data when it involves PII. And then if it involves one of those digital IDs, like a hashed email, a MAID, or an IP address, we have a really neat direct integration where we try to make it as easy as possible for everybody to pull in those segments. And so just like how you saw Astron build that cool audience on NFL visitors, you know, if you uploaded your CRM data into Ignite, then instead of NFL viewers, we could grab out like that high frequency purchaser, overlay core targeting attributes you want on top of them too, like whether or not they have a preference for luxury or adventure, you know, depending on the product, either of those could make sense. And then look-alike out model that data too. And I'll just say anecdotally, I know with the accounts Astron and I have both worked on, we've seen a lot of clients see major success with lookalike modeling, you know, that CRM data. Any other questions from anybody else in the chat? All right. Well, we can't thank everyone enough for joining us today. This was awesome. Astron also, sincerely, thank you so much for walking us through these features. And again, if anyone needs support, the team alias is resonatesupport@resonate.com. Astron and I are both on it. The rest of the team is there, so we're always happy to coordinate with everyone. You can also reach out to your CSM directly too. You know, by all means, we are here to support you guys and hope you can get the most out of these new features. And yeah, look forward to talking to everybody again soon. Have a really great day. Thanks.